Good morning. Today I am going to start a series of talks covering the Soto Zen precepts, or for the guidelines for how to live an ethical life. These are really crucial aspect of Soto Zen. They're not the only aspect. It's really important that these precepts, guidelines, or vows for how we live our life be fully integrated with the whole of our practice together. And that's what I'd like to explore a little bit today. So the first of the grave precepts, and those are the ones I'll start off with. We have 10 so-called grave precepts. The first one is, I vow not to kill. And just as a reminder, the 10 grave precepts are not to kill, not to take what is not given, or not to steal, not to misuse sexuality, not to lie, not to abuse intoxicants, not to speak about the faults of others, not to praise self and put others down, not to be stingy with the Dharma or with material goods, not to give rise to anger, and to honor the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. These are what's known as the 10 grave precepts. And I've talked in the past about, where these come from. For Soto Zen, they come from the Brahmanet Sutra, and in many ways they're the distillation of the essence of the rules, not really rules, but they're inside-out rules for how to live an ethical life. So they're very crucial. As you may recall, personally, I first learned about the precepts when I was on sesshin, or silent retreat. I had started practicing zazen at a small temple when I was living in Japan and working as an English teacher. There was a small temple nearby, and I went there a lot for sesshin. Didn't know a lot about Buddhism, but was really interested. So I went for silent sesshin, but it was silent. So we were sitting and doing a lot of zazen. And I really found a close affinity with it. I can't say I loved it. It was so hard. But something really spoke to me about it. And so at the encouragement of the teacher at that small temple, I went to a monastery for a longer sesshin for 7 days. And I was so excited about it. And it was so cold. It was snowing, even though it was April. And I went to the abbot for doksan, or for a practice 1-to-1. And he asked me the question, is it enough just to sit zazen? And so I remembered, okay, when you go for a practice interview, just don't try to, I'd gotten this guidance. Don't try to impress anyone. Just really say what's in your heart. And so I said, hi, yes. And he just got ferocious, and he said, no. And he did it a little louder than I'm doing it. No, it's not enough just to sit. You must keep the precepts. And I said, hi, yes. But I was thinking, what's a precept? So as soon as I left, I learned what's a precept. And I mentioned this story because the precepts come from the inside out, and they also come from the outside in, and they have to meet. So we have these guidelines for how to live our life, these ethical guidelines, which come to us from the time of the Buddha. And they don't come out of nowhere. They come out of deep practice, and they also come out of life. So not to kill is a pretty universal precept. But we can't follow these precepts only from our ideas or from the idea that they come from somewhere out there. We have to follow them from the inside out as well. I'd like to share this passage from Samdong Rinpoche, who's a Tibetan teacher. I think I marked it. And if I didn't mark it, oh, here we go. Yes. So I'd like to share this passage from Samdong Rinpoche. And he's talking about the way that right view, right conduct, and right meditation, or our zazen, come together. So he tells us we first must develop correct view of what the reality is. And this is cultivated through our practice. Without the employment of our practice, one may end up with a religion based solely on faith. In such a case, one is called on to simply believe what the conventional mind is in fact incapable of believing. This leads to a dilemma of faith and doubt, and to an increase in suffering rather than a decrease. So the Buddhist path is one of knowing and also of being able to demonstrate one's knowing rather than simply believing what one has been taught. So that's what I wanted to focus on today. So just to unpack that a little bit more, if we read this line or hear this line, I vow not to kill. I vow not to kill. Okay, that makes sense. But I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to do it. If we just leave it at that, and it comes from the outside in, then that's somebody else's understanding being imposed on us. And this is what he says when he means it's just based on faith. So when we really engage with the precepts from the inside out, through our cultivation of our zazen, when we follow our breath, we watch our thoughts arise, and we let them go, returning to the breath, we learn to really drop the sense of me as a separate being from you. And this happens quite naturally through our zazen practice, but with guidance from the Buddha's teachings. So we need that balance of inside out and outside in, held by community, the Sangha, in order to fully actualize the practice. So if we take this precept, not to kill, as something somebody else tells us to do, then it's based on their understanding of what it means not to kill. And we cannot actualize it. As Samdong Rinpoche says, we're being asked to do something that we're not yet capable of doing. So in other words, we sort of set ourselves up for failure when we do it this way, because a key aspect of the precepts is that we will fail. Maybe not because. That's why I paused. Just to strike because. A key aspect of the precepts is that we will fail. We will fail over and over and over. And we will keep trying over and over and over. Just like when we're practicing zazen, following our breath. The goal isn't some out here state of perfection, someone else's idea of perfection. dream. The goal is to be real, to be present in this moment, in this life, the way this life is. And in this life, as human beings, we try, we make mistakes, we acknowledge those mistakes, and we keep going. In our sitting practice, we follow our breath. Thoughts arise, we become distracted, we're pulled out of the present moment, and we return. And it's this return that's the real essence of our practice. So similarly with the precepts, we have guidelines, and that's why they're not optional guidelines, but they're not rules that we break and don't break. They're guidelines that we try our very best to follow, knowing that inevitably we'll break them. Then we get insight. What does it mean not to kill? I mean, what do you think? What is that? What is not to kill? We take it, sort of eat it, let it settle into our lower belly, and let the answer arise out of not knowing, rather than knowing. Because if we know the answer, there's really nothing to do. We're done. Rather than know, let's see if we can let go and allow the answers to naturally arise out of not knowing. What is it not to kill? Dogen Zenji says, by not killing life, the seeds of the Buddha are nurtured, and one is enabled to succeed the Buddha's life of wisdom. Do not kill life. How do we do that? In its very essence, obviously we don't kill people. We don't kill others. Why don't we kill? There's the core of not causing harm. And when we cause harm to others, we're also causing harm to ourselves. We know this definitely about killing other humans. When we kill, whether it's necessary or not, whether it's spontaneous or planned, it harms. Of course, it harms the person that we kill. We take away their life, harms their family, their community, their grandmother, their pet. The harm just keeps spreading outwards. And at the same time, it also harms us. So regardless of what happens, sometimes people are asked to kill through their service, especially through the military, through the service of protecting others. And when this happens, we have to find a way to come to balance with that. And it's not easy. Better not to do it in the first place. And yet we do. And yet we do. Maybe not all of us have killed other humans, but what have we killed? Probably just today we've killed. For those of us who eat meat, that requires killing an animal. For those of us who ate breakfast, that required killing something. If it was a plant, it probably required killing the bugs that live on the plants, or the creatures who live in the ground underneath the plants, And even the soil is alive. The soil that grows the plants is alive. The plants themselves are alive. The air is also alive, as is the rain that comes down onto the plant. And even farther, what else do we kill? We can kill with our words. We can kill somebody's dreams, their hopes. We can kill their love for the world by just a harsh word. Think of how that works with kids. We try to really damp that down as we grow older, but it's so easy to see with children or with pets. A harsh word really kills something. You can see a bright, shiny child enjoying the day, and maybe we're scared. Maybe we want to protect them. Maybe they're going too close to the road. Happy, happy, happy. Get away from the road. And then they go, oh, maybe they cry. So we killed their joy. Was it necessary? Perhaps. Maybe they needed to hear that tone in our voice in order to get out of danger. And it's this engagement, this perhaps, that really gives the precepts life for us. There are no easy answers. Practicing the precepts is the zazen of body, speech, and mind all together. How we live our life. So when we practice them from the inside out, again, using the stability of our practice to let go of the idea that I am separate from you, to really honor the Buddha in you, and have that reflected back to me. It's the Buddha here. When we find that balance, then we can really start to engage with the precepts. And they don't happen in a vacuum. We have guidance from the whole of the teachings of the Buddha, which is called the Dharma. The whole of the teachings together help us to keep the precepts, not our brains. If we were to try to follow them from our brains, it's so limited. Our brains are so limited. But when we engage the whole of the Dharma, we have so many resources. When we engage with the whole Buddhist community, the Sangha, we have so much help. Because if I engage with you, you reflect back to me both the areas I need to work on and the areas where things seem to be hitting the right spot. And you give me a chance to actualize the precepts. So I feel so grateful to you. We don't have to do this on our own. Again, we have the whole of the teachings from the Buddha, the teachings on how to practice, the meditation piece, how to live our life, how to speak to others, what kind of jobs we can do that really lift up others and don't hurt, how to really engage with our concentrated mind. And we do it together. So not to kill, for me, involves really learning what is not to kill for you. And it requires the engagement of constantly trying, letting the wisdom arise out of our lower belly and trying. Because this is another danger we can get into. If we think that we know what it means not to kill, or we follow somebody else's idea of not to kill, or we get so scared by the idea of not killing that we freeze, each of those keeps us out of this moment. we really have no choice but to put one foot in front of the other and just try it on. What is this? Maybe we talk with our friends on the path. Maybe, again, like I said, let that question sit and arise out of our lower belly in our practice. And most of all, we make mistakes. What have we killed just today? Just this week? And further? The important thing is not to attain some state of perfection, but to really engage with the questions. And when we mess up, to engage with repentance or acknowledging our mistakes and really letting them go. Acknowledging our mistakes, the harm that we've caused, making amends, and then drop it. Keep going. Keep going. Every time we eat, we acknowledge the food and how it comes to us. How did this food come to us? It came to us through the gift of the farmers, the soil, the rain, the nutrients, the plants that grew up. It came to us through the sunshine, through each other, the person who prepared the food, and our bodies that allow the food to enter. This is the interdependence. And it also came to us through taking the nutrients from the soil, absorbing from the rain, cutting the plant, the farmer who gives their life to bringing us this plant. I think of my grandfather who was a farmer and the way that he looked later in life, so wrinkled from the Florida sun, sitting in his chair in his overalls, pretty quiet guy, tired and also full of a life well lived, bringing life to others through the gift of food. So precious that he offered this every day of his life, bringing life to others through the gift of food, bringing life to others through the gift of killing, cutting the plants. He raised pigs, chickens, took the eggs from the chickens. There was often pork served, bacon, ham, sausage. I grew up in the South. All of these things that quite literally gave me, Tenku, life, involved killing. So acknowledging the reality of that, I accept the gift. Acknowledging the reality of that, I vow not to kill. Acknowledging, inevitably, we end up killing. How am I going to live my life in a way that causes benefit and doesn't cause harm? It's not so simple, is it? It's not so simple as a set of rules. As I sit today, I can hear the sound of my cat eating. I don't know if you can hear her, but she's been very sick for the last few days. And the sound of her eating makes me so happy. I am so happy that she can eat, that she's alive. And at the same time, I'm aware that what she's eating is an animal. Did she kill it herself? No. Yeah. Did I kill the cans? No, I didn't kill the cans, but I enacted killing to feed my cat. Acknowledging that, respecting the chickens that feed my cat. I am grateful and I repent. I vow not to kill. The disciple of Buddha does not kill, but lifts up all life in each moment, over and over, living, growing, harming, making amends. This is how we engage with this practice.